types of sampling, sampling bias, and sampling errors. So these are the various types of samplings or the various parameters of sampling, and generally we do sampling right from our classes, pre-research classes and also in research classes. So what do we mean by samples? So if this is the entire population, then it is not possible for us to study the entire population. What we do, we take few of these. We take a smaller set of data. So maybe here there are a lot of people over here. The population is too much. It is not possible for us to go to each one of them and collect data. That is not possible. So that will require a lot of time, etc. So what we do is that we take a few of them, and this few that we take, this represents this entire population, and then we study these. These are the sample, then we study these. So these represent this entire population. So this is in very short what you can mean by sample. So this is a pictorial definition of what you can mean by sample. So now the question is the definition, what is sampling? So a sampling, when we say sampling, it is what? It is defined as a smaller set of data, which is from a larger population by using a predefined selection tool. So we do not take the whole data. What we take only a smaller data. That we do not take the whole set of data. So the researcher, what he does, that he chooses, or he can say he can select from this larger population by using some predefined selection method. Now what selection method he will decide, that will be decided based on what is his research, what sort of research he is doing. So based upon that he will do this. So you can say that the sampling is the act or the process or technique of selecting only a representative part of the population. So thus, you can say that creating a sample is an efficient method of conducting research. Now the question is, why do we need sampling? What is the requirement of sampling? It is because it is just like I had told in the initial, in the cover slide. Supposing you want to do research on some parameters of Mizoram. Since we are staying at Mizoram, so I am giving you example of Mizoram. Suppose you want to do certain parameters, some parameters of Mizoram. So it is not possible for you to go to each and every household of Mizoram. That will be, first of all, impossible, that will be costly, and that will be time consuming. So what you do is that you take a few of them, you take only a sample, and then this sample will mean that this will be applied to the entire population, and then you work on that population. Now sampling is of two types. One is probability sampling and non-probability sampling. So probability sampling is what? It is based on the concept of random selection. Each and every member of that population has got the chance to get selected. And just the opposite is the non-probability sampling. So these are the various types of probability sampling and the non-probability sampling. So let us now see about the probability sampling. So first of all is a stratified random sampling. In all of these you can see certain maps has been given, certain diagrams have been given. So first is stratified random sampling. So what is the stratified? Stratified means when the researcher, this is the entire population. So the entire population is spread in this entire area. Maybe this entire area is what? These are of 4, 4 into 4, that is 16. So maybe it is spread in this 16 square kilometer of area. So what the researcher does is that in stratified random sampling, he will divide this entire population into smaller groups. Maybe that he can divide it according to gender, maybe this gender, maybe age, maybe caste, etc. First, he will divide it into smaller groups, and then, like, this is one group, this small square is one group, this small square is one group, this is one group. So based upon that groups, then he will select randomly from each of these samples. Then he will select randomly. So so for example, in this particular square you see that two people has been selected, but over here none has been selected because this is a random sampling. You just choose according to your will. So I will give you an example of this. Suppose this is the entire population of maybe like you want to sample some students. Maybe like you want to sample around 1 lakh students or 5,000 students, whatever. So like for example, you want to sample the students that are studying it at Mizoram University. So it is not possible for you to study the entire, all the students that are here, that are studying in our university. So what you decide is that you divide the population. Now in sampling population, the word population means the entire people who are who are getting represented. So you divide the entire population, that is the entire students, all the students of Mizoram University, into certain fixed strata, like over here, certain fixed strata or certain fixed groups, maybe by their gender, maybe by their age, etc., by their various caste, etc. So you divide them, and then from each of the strata, you do what? From each of the subsets that you have done over here, you then select randomly. So that is stratified. First you stratify it, first you divide it into various strata, and then you select from that strata randomly. In a simple random sampling, it is very simple, it is very easy. What is that? Now every single member of the population is chosen randomly. It is just by chance. You don't have any fixed rules whom to choose. So over here, this is the entire area. So some people over here has been chosen, some over here has been chosen. Here in the simple random sampling, you don't pick and choose. You don't have a fixed rule whom to choose. You can choose anyone. Just like you need to choose a few names through lottery. You don't have anything in mind whom exactly to choose. You just choose randomly. Then comes the cluster or the multi-stage sampling. So here what happens, the entire population is divided into various sections like you are seeing over here, and then clusters from that section, clusters are chosen. Like over here this cluster has been chosen, here this cluster has been chosen, here this cluster has been chosen. So these clusters that are being chosen, they may be based on various demographic parameters. Like it can be chosen out of maybe say, age, out of the location, say etc. So a cluster, or you can say, what do we mean by cluster? It means a group of points. So a group of points is chosen. If maybe same age, over here people from the same age has been chosen, maybe from the same location, here three persons have been chosen. So here cluster is chosen. Again, if we have to give an example, like supposing you want to do survey of the students from a city, like right now the pandemic is going on, so you want to just do some survey, psychological, what it has effect it has occurred on the students from maybe Aizol city. So what we have to do is that we have to first, you have to select a few schools, sample schools. Then of that schools, you have to select a sample of classrooms, and then within that classrooms you have to select certain students. So thus this what you are doing, you are going through a multi stage, from students, classrooms, schools, cities. So there is a multi-stage. So just like I was saying, that it is divided into various sections, and then from each section a cluster is chosen. Then you find the systematic sampling. So here it is at a regular interval. You can see the dots over here. There's a regular interval. These are not chosen randomly. The distance between these dots are fixed. That means the interval is fixed. Whom you choose is fixed. Now again another example from this. Similarly, like you want to study about the population or the students of Mizoram University. For example, you have 5,000 students over here, and now maybe you want to have a sample size of 500 students only. Out of that 5,000, you want to have only 500 students. So what you do is that 5,000 is the total population. You want to have a sample size of 500. So you just divide 5,000 divided by 500. So you get 10. So then after that, what you do, you just number the population, number the students from 1 to uh, 5,000, because total population is 5,000. So you do that, what, 1 to 5,000, you number it, each and every one, and then you choose every 10th. So 1 to 5,000 every 10th. Again, one again after 10, the 11th again becomes 1. Then again you go on to the next 10, and the 10th is again chosen. So like this, every 10th individual becomes part of the survey, and likewise you will get your ultimate sample survey of 500 people. So this is how the systematic sampling is done. So these are the various examples of probability sampling. So now let us see about the non-probability sampling. So in the non-probability sampling, first of all comes the convenience sampling. So in convenience sampling, what we do is that the samples are selected according to our convenience. There is no fixed rule. It is chosen according to our convenience, the convenience of the researcher. What can be the convenience? Like it is written over here, easy to recruit or ease of carrying it out, etc. etc. So it depends upon the researcher with how convenient he is, or how conveniently he want to get his subjects, he want to get his samples. Like for example, I think many of you have seen maybe in malls or various places, in maybe in the city, in the street, in the corners, you may have seen people distributing leaflets. So maybe these leaflets that are distributed, they are for certain promotional purpose, or maybe to do a survey of their, maybe there are these small companies, maybe startup companies, they want to do, they just want to have some upcoming events, they want you to know of some upcoming events or promotional purpose. So what they do is that they will just stand at the mall entrance or maybe street corner somewhere, and they will just give out the pamphlets randomly. I am sure that many of you might have seen that thing, or many of you have received pamphlets like that. So that means that if you are not visiting that particular mall, then you will be exempted from any sort of survey or sampling. Or maybe you are not going through that particular street, then you will be exempted from being part of the sample. That is convenience sample. So this is the problem of convenience sample. Then comes consecutive sampling, which is almost similar to the earlier one, but there is a slight variation. So here what happens, the researcher, he samples consecutively. That is why it is called consecutive sampling. So because of this, what he does is that he will first do an analysis, and then he will move on to another subject, and then if it is required, he will again do another sampling. So he will do it consecutively, not once, he will do it more than once. So when he does this more than once, then what happens, then he will have it will give him a chance to fine tune his ultimate research results, because he has got a number of documents, a number of data, because he has consecutively done, he has done it more than once. Then comes the judgmental or purposive sampling. Now here, when we do judgmental or purposive sampling, then it is actually based upon the judgment, or it is based upon the knowledge and the credibility of the researcher. So here, because it is depends upon the judgment of the researcher, that is, he is the best judge whom he wants to study. He does not have any fixed rule that I will do it systematically or I will do it randomly. He thinks whatever he thinks that this is my this person has got the ability to be my sample, then he will do accordingly. So he uses his judgment. He uses his discretion to choose his subjects. Now, when we use our own discretion to choose our sample subjects, then there are a lot of negative points. What are the negative points? Then we will influence our results. Like if we don't have a very we do not have a broad approach, we do not have a broad approach, we are already judging the population, we are already deciding that this person is fit for my to be my sample, and that person is not fit to be my sample. Then we are already we are already making the results in our mind. So this is not also this also has got lots of lacuna. For instance, for example, if I want to ask the students of maybe I want to ask some students of some school that how many of you want to go for your higher education, or like maybe I have already decided the criteria is that anyone who wants to do in masters in science, I will select only those people. That means when I go and ask that are you interested to do your masters in science, so those who will respond with a no, then I will automatically not take them into granted. Then what about the students of MA or MCom or MB, etc., those who are not doing their masters in science? So I am already deciding beforehand the students who are doing their masters in science or who want to do their masters in science are only eligible to for my study of the students who want to do their higher education. So this is not the right way of sampling also. Then comes the snowball sampling. So in snowball sampling, when this is done, when the samples are very difficult to locate or the sample size is very small. Again, like for example, I will give example for this from the shelterless people or the illegal immigrants. Like all of you are aware about the Rohingyas or the recent immigrants from Myanmar that are flocking in Mizoram. So in such cases, you cannot go to each and every of these refugees because you do not know in which part of Mizoram they have entered or they are right now they are settled. So what you do is that you track a few of them and then you interview them, a few of these immigrants, and then you interview them, and then you derive results from whatever they say. Then comes the quota sampling. So this particular sampling is a very rapid method of collecting samples. So in this over here also, like for example in quota sampling, how we can do this? Now for example, I want to study the career goals of all of you people. I want to study the career goals of the male and the female students in an university. So if I want to do that, again, the in Mizoram University, maybe there are 5,000 students. And I have already told you the entire is called as population. So what I cannot I cannot research out the entire population. So I will divide the samples into various groups or quotas, and based upon each of these quotas, then I will start my sampling, and I will decide that from each and every quota, each and every groups, I will select this much quota, this many people I will select from each. Maybe from males I will select this much, and from females I will select only this much. So that is quota sampling. Next next we have sampling bias. So till now it was the various types of sampling. So now we see the sampling bias. So what do we mean by sampling bias? Sampling bias is what? This when there is some error in sampling, when samples have not been selected properly, they have been selected incorrectly, and they do not represent the true distribution of the population, then we call that as sampling bias. And what is the reason? The reason is that the data collection, the reason is the data collection process. That is the reason that there is sampling bias. So because of the data collection process, it may happen that you may favor certain of the individuals, or you may favor not favor the other individuals. So that is sampling bias, that results in sampling bias. So what are the various types of sampling bias? The first one is self selection. So when do this self selection, when does this kind of a bias happens? It happens when individuals with some specific characteristics, they select themselves into the research sample. So maybe they are so much interested about this research, about the ultimate result of the research, that they will select themselves into this. Maybe because of the nature of the study, then individuals with certain characteristics or experiences, they may be eager to partake in this sort of sampling more than the others, so they will try to self select them. So generally this kind of sampling bias happens in these subjects, and when that happens, then obviously we will get some abnormal or undesirable results or undesirable conditions. Like for example, subjects. And when do we have this? When the individuals, when people, maybe because of the nature of the study, some people, they get more eager to partake in this. So we many this kind of self selection, because they are self selecting themselves. The researcher is not going and asking them to be part of the sample, but they are, the subjects are self selecting themselves. The samples are getting self selected. So for example, just like I was saying, maybe you have an online, this one some online shopping, there are various online shopping sites. So maybe individuals, so many of us buy many things from them. So maybe uh, some of the things are not so good, and some of the things we have good experiences. So many times what happens, that individuals who have positive experience, they may self select themselves and they may write a review over there. That means, so ultimately, and maybe people who do not have a very positive experience, have got a negative experience about that particular item, they may not write any review. So then what happens, this will skew the ultimate purpose, the ultimate client experience. So then you will see that maybe for a particular item, for a particular product, the number of positive reviews are very much, very high. But then when you actually buy that item, then you see that you are not much satisfied. That is called self selection bias. Then we have the under coverage. So under coverage happens when the population, it is poorly represented, or they are not represented at all in the study sample. Maybe certain parts, some of the people, some of the facets of the population has not been represented in the sample. So this occurs because of convenience sampling. Because of the convenience sampling, the researcher himself decides whom to select and whom not to select. So maybe he has selected in such a way that a certain part of the population has not been selected at all, and maybe there has been selection from the other part. That means there is under coverage from the part of the population which has not been selected. Then comes the no response. When there is a no response, what is this? That is the inability of a part of your population to partake in the study. Or maybe even if they are partaking in the study, even if they are part of the study, they are not giving you any response, whether positive, whether negative, they are not giving you any response. So that is no response. So when do we have that? Maybe you have posed certain bad survey questions to them, or maybe your entire survey is poorly constructed, or maybe you are requesting certain sensitive information, like for example you are requesting about their finance, about their family life. You are asking them how much is your salary. Most of the people, we do not agree to disclose our salaries. So that is no response. Or maybe like for example, you want to study about dancing techniques, so and you go and ask some people. So maybe if, some of the individuals, they do not have any knowledge of dancing. When they do not have any knowledge of dancing, then how will you expect them to give you any answers related to dancing related questionnaires? So you must see that what whom you are questioning, what kind of questions you are posing, etc. Then comes the survivorship. So what is this? This is successful observation. People and objects are more likely to be represented in the sample than the unsuccessful ones. Now, this happens in journals. In journals, when people write about research articles, etc., in journals, then many of the journals they prefer only those articles which ultimately gives positive results. But when certain articles, the study matter gives null findings or negative findings, then many of the journals they do not accept that. They do not publish that. So that is survivorship. So does that mean that the null findings or the negative findings are not valid research? They are also valid research. So this is survivorship. Then is a healthy user. So this is more common in the medical fraternity. So, what is this? This is what when certain types of peoples they volunteer themselves for various medical research. You know that there are various medical researches they go on, or clinical trials are going on, particularly right now during the time of COVID. Various such clinical trials are going on. So, for these clinical trials, you require some people who will be volunteers. So for this, mainly it is seen that many times the persons who are healthier, more healthier than the rest of the individuals, they become part of these samples, and because they are more healthier, they are more active while during these kinds of study. So the ultimate result is what you end up studying people who are actually very healthy than the people who are not so healthy. So that means you get a healthy user bias. So then what will happen to the not so healthy ones? So that means you must have your sample in such a way that it takes the healthy people also and not so healthy people also. Then comes the pre-screening or the advertising. So sometimes the selection criteria, when the selection process deployed in a study, it results in a sample that is a poor representation of the population. So when it is a poor representation, that is sometimes the selection criteria in a study, they can discourage some groups from taking part in the research. So this when that happens, that will also distort your research findings. So these are the various types of sampling bias. Next comes the sampling bias in research. So let us see the circumstances under which the sampling bias occurs in our research when we do research. When does it happen? If it favors some research outcomes over the others. Or but then these are largely unintentional. You do not intentionally do these research biases. Or when you randomly select samples. So does that mean that it cannot be avoided? Of course, it can be avoided. How? By limiting your judgment and trying to avoid the convenience sampling, and also identifying your research variables, etc. So now I will give you an example of research bias in research. So this is a situation. What is a situation? To find out about voter apathy in a particular region, an organization decides to research why people do not vote. This is a situation. And what do they do? To gather the required data, the researcher decides to survey in one of the most expensive shopping malls in the region. Now, see, when this is the situation, now just see how a sampling bias will occur. Now, when you do this kind of research, when you do this kind of sampling method, you are already excluding all those people in the region who are eligible to vote. Your ultimate concern is that people who do not vote. But you are already excluding people who are eligible to vote. How? Like you are excluding people who cannot afford to come to this expensive shopping mall. Plus, people who would not even be in the mall. Maybe at that present time, maybe they can afford, but they are not in the mall. So over here, you are doing a convenience sample. For your convenience, you are going to this shopping mall and you are doing this sampling. But then by doing this particular kind of sampling with this particular aim, you have this particular research aim. and you are doing this particular type of sampling, so this is an example of convenience sampling, then you cannot expect your research to be devoid of any kind of flaws, etc. So I hope this is clear about sampling bias. Now let us see sampling bias in surveys. So some like something sometimes a survey can be crafted in a way that may favor or disfavor collecting data. Now how that can be done? Maybe sometimes as basic as language in your survey, that can automatically exclude a certain section of the people. For example, you want to study for your research, you want to study some people, literate also, semi-literate, and also the literates. Maybe these are all in your samples: literates, semi-literates, and literates. Then should you use technical terms for them? Should you use huge technical terms for them? We cannot use that, because you must use easy languages. These technical terms will not be easily understood by the illiterates or the semi-literates. So you must use very simple languages. Now, how can we avoid sampling bias? First of all, you have been hearing about this convenience sampling a lot. So avoid convenience sampling. How you can avoid that? By clearly mapping out the different groups uh, in your study population, and ensuring that you gather sufficient data from each group. Then finding out why people did not respond to your question or questionnaire. What was wrong in your questionnaire? Are you asking the right questions, or you are targeting the wrong audience? So you must find that out. You must ensure that your survey is very easy to understand, it is concise, it is straight to the point, etc. But if it is more complex, then obviously it will result to no response. I have told you about no response. You must define a target population and a target sampling frame. Just like I had told you that maybe if I want to study about 5,000 students of Mizoram University, then my target sampling frame is what? 500. I have derived that through some empirical, or some statistical techniques. So you must have some defined target population and some defined sampling frame. But sometimes there is, of course, oversampling. You must do this oversampling. This is a method that is used to correct the under coverage. This is just the opposite of under coverage. Under coverage, what you can do is that you can do oversampling. That is, you deliberately gather more data from the groups that you think that has been poorly represented. So these are the various ways in which you can do away with the various sampling bias. Now again, I will give you an example of sampling bias. So this is a situation. What is the situation? Maybe when making list of households in several villages, the survey team forgot to include households where an ethnic minority lived. People in this minority are routinely discriminated against and cannot in general use the village borehole, that is from where water can be obtained, but must drink from the nearby ponds and streams. So this is the situation. So when this is a situation, when you forget to include all the sections of the society, then your ultimate result will be biased against this, against the minorities, because then they are taking water from what? From the ponds and streams, not from the boreholes. So there will be prevalence of diarrhea among the people, various kinds of water related diseases. So you are you are excluding those things, those health issues, when you are making a list of the household villages. So this is a sampling bias. Then comes the word called sampling error. Many a times it might look similar to you, sampling error, but actually it is a statistical error. These are all human error by the human, but this is statistical error. These are manual errors, but this is a statistical error. And there are several measures of sampling error, and you can see these are all the statistical measures of sampling errors. Now these are the various key takeaways of sampling error. So you can go through this. That is, it occurs when the sample used in the study is not representative of the whole population. It can be reduced by increasing the sampling size, and random sampling is an additional way to minimize the occurrence of sampling errors. Now, these are the various types of sampling errors. First is a population specific error, which occurs when a researcher does not understand who to survey. There is a selection error when there is some problem, the participants are not interested in the survey, respond to the questions. Then is a sample frame error. This will occur when a sample is selected from the wrong population data, and no response error. When you are not able to get any response from them, when they refuse to respond to your queries, to your questionnaires. How can you eliminate the sampling errors? There are two types of errors, sampling and the non-sampling. So how can you eliminate? First of all, eliminating sampling errors. You just increase the sample size. You can replicate your study. Then you can do random sampling. This is another way how you can eliminate the errors. Then non-sampling errors. The non-sampling errors are caused by human error. Like you have made a mistake in the total sampling process. I will give you another example of this. Supposing there is these days there are a lot of these Wi-Fi companies, etc. So supposing there is one company which wants to provide you, and like as you are all aware, you people yourself do, you are always on mobile, you are always on YouTubes, you are always on the various movie channels, etc., in your mobiles, etc. So supposing a company wants to provide a subscription based service that will allow the consumers to pay a monthly fee. I am speaking about the non sampling error, how this occurs, because this is a human error. To pay a monthly fee so that you can stream the videos via the internet connection. Now, when that happens, maybe the firm, they wants to survey the homeowners who watch at least 10 hours of video by the internet per week. Now, for maybe the company, they makes the population. I have already told you in the cover slide what do we mean by population and what is sample. Maybe the population is from the age 15 to 25. Now see what is the problem over here. If they are making the total, if the population is based between 15 to 25, of course they use all these video streaming service like you people are using, you people come in this 15 to 25 age group. So you are using this video streaming service, but you people do not have any full-time work. So you cannot make any purchasing decision in your homes. So maybe you are going for 10 hours of video programming each week, but you do not have any purchasing power. So if that company does a survey amongst you people, then it is of no use because ultimately you won't be having the purchasing power. But supposing if they do it in some other group uh, who have the purchasing power, maybe from 45 and above, maybe they want to do a group, they have the purchasing power 45 above, they are doing sampling from them. But the 45 above group, they may have the purchasing power, but they do not waste their 10 hours per week to watch the various kinds of videos in the videos that is available through internet connection. So that is non-sampling error. This is caused by human error, and this is a classic example of how through survey, through erroneous survey, you can have this kind of errors. So this was all about sampling, sampling bias, and sampling errors.